In this episode, I share my experience from using different methods for hiring virtual assistants and staff. I talk about agencies, about using recruitment consultants, and also about hiring direct and building a recruitment system that has helped us to hire over 140 virtual assistants and remote workers over the past few years. This was a question posted into our Ask Me Anything session, which I run every Thursday in our Systems and Outsourcing Community Facebook group. And you're very welcome to join that group and get involved in those Thursday Ask Me Anything sessions. So it kicks off with me repeating the question that was asked, and then I go into the episode after that. I hope you enjoy it. Would you recommend using a separate company to find a VA or employ direct? Does this have any advantages in your opinion? And is the employment cost significantly different? Okay, so I can come at this from a few angles. So first of all, I have recruited all our own staff myself, with the exception of one. And that one was recruited for me by a virtual assistant recruitment company, which I now recommend people to as a sort of a quid pro quo. So I've had that experience of hiring through somebody. I've had around 140 virtual assistants for both myself and our clients. And also we have created a recruitment system which allows our clients to hire their own staff. There's also the agency model, which I've used. So you rent time off an agency, by the hour, and they supply you a person who does your work for you. That may be the same person, but if they leave, it'll be a different person, etc. And they basically, you then pay them. So running in sort of the cost order, you've got the most expensive is the agency model, if we're talking long term, because you pay 2 or 3 times the going rate for that person. The problem with that is you're training up somebody else's staff. And you have no control over who you're going to have working with you. They may change that person from day to day. You can't really build rapport in the same way because you're not actually their direct manager. They're working via somebody else. So therefore, that's not a model that I actually enjoyed working in and not one I recommend people, because I think you should build a team that's loyal to you and you're loyal to them. They will look out for you. You will look out for them. That is a really, really positive relationship to be building in your company. And that's what you need, is relationships in your company. So hiring yourself, going through an agency, if you get a good agency and they really, they take some time with you and they've got some good processes behind what they do, agency model, fair enough. The problem is you don't learn about hiring and doing that. It can be a quick fix. But going forward, you're then beholden to keep on going back to agencies to find staff. And so what I decided was to actually invest time in learning how to do recruitment and then building my recruitment system so that I wasn't beholden to paying extortionate fees to recruitment agencies, which can be, £500 to £1,000 for a virtual assistant, and then much higher than that if you're going to get, employees. But then having a system in place allows me to then just tweak the system for each role I'm hiring for, and then actually get good quality people through based on criteria that I can set really, really, dial it down to exactly what I want. And regardless of where you get someone from, and this is probably the biggest point, is it doesn't really matter where you get somebody from, and you'll find good people as long as you just do the work and don't just cherry pick, actually go through a process of elimination and make sure you put them through some test tasks. Have a listen to the podcast. If you've not listened to the recruitment series in the podcast, there's 7 episodes or 6 episodes back to back, and I talk about all this in detail. So I'm not going to go through it in massive detail now. So go through the process as I describe. And then the key thing, though, the most important thing in my opinion, is your onboarding and your training and your management. Because if you've got good onboarding, you set them up, they know what they're going to do from day one, they've got the right apps, they've got the right access, then you train them to use all those apps. And you also have systems in place so they know what they're doing in their work, and you manage them effectively. You give them feedback, you give them support, you keep them accountable, and you have those systems in place. That is how you can turn even the most ordinary, normal employee into an absolute superstar. And I think it's like Michael Gerber, he said, systems are what turn ordinary people into or allow ordinary people to do extraordinary things consistently, or something along those lines. And that's what it's all about. And that system, for my opinion, starts at the minute you post that job advert. And that's why I don't like using agencies as well. Because in my job adverts, I talk about my company values. I talk about who we are as a business, how we look after our staff. I talk about that. I describe the lifestyle that we'll give you if you come to work for us, and what we're going to support you in doing and building your career. I really think a lot about what goes into that job post. I make it stand out from everybody else in the job market to get the best of the best to come and apply. And I want people that care about that stuff because that's what I care about. And I want people who want to engage and be a part of a team who is growing, who is actually looking out for each other, who is helping each other become better people in their own private lives as well as, in their professional lives. That's the people I want in my company. And so that's the way I talk about my job roles. And I wouldn't trust an agency to do that. So I took time, trial and error, 140 recruitments later to get that right. And put all that into our recruitment system. And then so you start that relationship off on a massively positive note because that they've got the right head on them. You should hire for attitude and aptitude and values, because skills you can teach. Unless you're getting somebody specifically, like you need someone, I need someone to fix my YouTube ads because they're broken, I don't know how the back end works, and need to do some tagging and some API automation and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, of course, you can hire skills. But for most roles, there is a certain minimum level of skills required. Maybe it's a telesales role, or maybe it's a customer service role, maybe it's a back end admin role. Certain level of at least competence is required, and everything else can be taught. So if you start off, regardless if you're hiring for skills, to be honest, or not, but that's the way you focus your job posting. It starts that relationship off, and then that relationship builds because now you take them through a professional hiring structured system where they feel that they're actually, they're getting through rounds. They really, by the time they get to the round 4 and their final interview, they're like, they really want this job. My gosh, this company must be really, really good place to work if they've got all these barriers in place to people actually coming to working for them, not just picking anybody out of the hat. So you're putting in people's minds about what it's going to be like working with you. And then when you interview them and you say, yeah, do you want the job? Brilliant. They get a written job proposal. They get a written position agreement. And then as soon as they say yes, you hit a button and bang, they start entering the onboarding system, and they start getting, then they get an email saying, hey, welcome to the company. Please can you do X, Y, and Z to get yourself set up and ready and log in here. Your training's waiting for you when you log in. Then they start on day 1 with their training tasks, and they go through and learn how your company works, learn about what you do as a business, how they interact with you, how they're going to get work, how do they communicate, what do they do if they've got problems, how do they track their time, how do they use all the apps that you use every day. And then they know the way their work's going to be arriving, and they know exactly what it is you're expecting of them. And then you have a welcome meeting next day. Hey, welcome to the company. On this welcome meeting, I'd like to book in with your first one-to-one with you, so we can get to know each other, so we can find out what you love to do, and we can hopefully craft a role in this company so we can get the best out of you by putting you in a role that makes you perform at your best. And then you continue to do those weekly meetings. And then you do a performance review after a month and say, look, you've been brilliant. Here's a small pay rise. And then 6 months later, you do another performance review and say, hey, look, you're doing brilliantly. Here's another pay rise. And you continue this. And this is how you can turn almost anybody into a fantastic long-term employee. It's all about having the systems to do it.